Hey YouTube, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Dana.
And this is Dark Moon Metals. In today's episode, I'm going to take a piece of 5/8 square bar and turn it into a steel cross. Once I'm done with the forging, I'm going to hand it over to Dana to do some engraving. Ready to go?
I think so.
Alright YouTube, I'm sure if you've never seen this before, you're probably wondering by now how something like this turns into this. There is a formula. I'm starting out with a 3-inch long piece. To make the cross, I'm going to be dividing it into thirds. 2/3 are going to form the bottom and the top, while the remaining third is going to form the arms of the cross. Alright guys, so here's my piece of 3-inch stock. Now this is 5/8 by 3 inches. And what I want to do is I want to kind of divide this up. I want to have a 2-inch long piece and a 1-inch long piece. Now you'll see a bunch of people do this differently in other videos on YouTube, but you'll see why I mark all 4 sides in a little while. So that's how we're going to divide it up. Most people will draw a center line down the long side and then rotate it 90 degrees and draw a center line on the short side. These 2 lines need to be cut to this point. You really don't think I'm going to cut this with a hacksaw, do you? Alright YouTube, so I need to cut this vertically. An 1-inch deep cut here and a 2-inch deep cut on that side. Now this clamp will not work. Most people use a vertical bandsaw rather than a horizontal bandsaw when they're making cuts like this. I don't have a vertical bandsaw at the moment, so I will show you how I get around this. Alright, what I'm using here is a palm grind drill press vise to hold the piece vertically so I can get a cut on it. Alright YouTube, basically what I did is I cut until I reached my pencil line. Now I am going to have to go back in with a hacksaw and even out this side, but as you can see, this takes care of most of the work for me. Alright YouTube, before I remove this, I want to show you one other thing. I have this pretty well centered where I want it. Now this is a stock stop. Basically you can set this so you can make repeatable cuts as you're feeding things through the saw. In this instance, I'm using it to locate how far the vise comes out from the clamp. If I keep this in this position, I can switch this stock around and make my second cut, and I can re-index the vise. I have to take the vise out to pull this out of here. This vise doesn't have a T-handle in it. I'm using a wrench right now because a T-handle would actually interfere with the clamp on the saw itself. Now with it still in the vise, I have maybe 1/8 of an inch that I need to level off on the bottom. That's all there is to it. Alright YouTube, here is the piece after the 2 cuts were made. I've got my 1-inch cut, my 2-inch cut, and a 3-inch stock. Not too bad considering that saw was never meant to cut a piece standing vertically. But it just goes to show that if you use a little imagination, you can get your job done with what you've got. So the next step is to put this in the forge. I'm going to start by heating this end up and then spreading these apart. These are going to form the arms of the cross. cross that I just finished after I wire brushed it. And I'm about ready to give this over to Dana. She's going to do a little bit of engraving on this. We'll see how that comes out. She wants to experiment a little bit. This is the first cross that I ever made right here. As you know from just watching my video, I'm really new at this. I don't have a decent cutoff hardy. I don't have decent tongs, anything like that. But I want to get the feel of how the metal flows before I start making things like tongs and other more complicated things. Now, the opening in the cross, these holes are actually determined by how deep you cut into your stock. If you leave 1/8 of an inch maybe on either side, you're going to see that hole get either a lot smaller or disappear. If you cut a little further in on each side, you're going to have it a little bit bigger like this one. So make a couple of these blanks and play with them. See what each one does. If nothing else, it's good practice. So I'm going to go ahead and give this to Dana, let her start engraving it, and we'll show you the finished product in just a minute.
Alright, so I've gotten my prep work done for the engraving. What I did was, first I had to pick out a font. I figured I'd go with something simple, nice Celtic font, and Carey. And I essentially did basic tracing of the cross and letter placement. Tested it out on paper, used pencil so I could erase in case I needed to move the letters around. And then I transposed that onto the cross. So I have a guideline for when I take out my air scribe to start engraving. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the rest of my stuff aside and get started on this.
Alright YouTube, there's the finished product, and I want to see if I can get you a close-up look at that engraving work. It says peace. Alright YouTube, well that wraps up another video. So, how's it being back in the shop?
Pretty good. Glad to be in front of the camera again. Hoping I can join you on a more regular basis. My dad's doing a lot better, and thanks everyone for your well wishes. I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah, pretty much. Just one thing before we leave. This cross, the one that Dana engraved, we are going to be putting this up for auction on eBay. There will be a link in the description if you'd like to bid on it. And right now, what we're going to do is we're going to be splitting what we make with this with a project called We Must Be Deafening. We're going to be putting that on the description as well with a link to the web address. It is basically an organization within Connecticut that just started that is trying to raise awareness for the changing landscape of mental health in our area and around the country. So please check it out. If you're interested in it, please place a bid. That being said, I think we're going to end the video here. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Dana.
This is Dark Moon Metals. We'll see you again soon.